Wonderful. I hope you guys are doing great. In the previous class, in terms of concepts, we have understood data warehouse concepts in general, like what is data warehouse and what are the types of tables and what are the different schemas. All those aspects we did discuss. Right. Now, let us understand the data warehouse in the context of the Microsoft. Is everybody able to see my screen?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So now, data warehouse in Microsoft Fabric is a Fabric data warehouse or a Fabric warehouse. If I ask a question, Parveen, do you think Fabric data warehouse will be different from the generic data warehouse?
I think the concepts are all same, but features may be different, sir. Maybe fast performance and all more good in Fabric. I think like that.
Yeah, what you were saying is right. Your intuition is running well. Okay. So,
Okay.
generic concepts, what is data warehouse, why is it used, and all those things would be same, right? Only there'll be a variations in terms of the little bit features, how the data is stored, how the data is retrieved. Otherwise, all other aspects, data warehouse, subject oriented, integrated, non-volatile, time variant, store for decision making from the management team. Fabric data warehouse is also used for the same thing. Okay. All other aspects would remain the same. So now Fabric data warehouse is a modern version of traditional data warehouse. So Fabric data warehouse, it centralizes and organizes the data from different departments, systems, and databases into single unified for the analysis and reporting purposes. Okay. I mean, there is no change, but this modern version, as and when we proceed, we will get to know some of the important features to qualify it as a modern version. Okay. And the way we have to look at is, our the data warehouse provides the full SQL semantics, including the ability to insert, update, delete the data in the tables. Have you guys heard of a SQL semantics earlier classes? You
Yes,
guys,
sir.
yeah,
Whenever the lake house is created, the SQL endpoint is automatically created, right, sir?
absolutely. There, we didn't really say full semantics. If you really observe in between the lines, we didn't say full semantics there. Do you guys remember? SQL endpoint semantics. Okay. So here we are saying full SQL semantics means we can insert the data, update the data, and delete the data in the tables. Okay. So one of the important aspect of the Fabric warehouse is it is built on top of the lakehouse. You guys are getting it, right? We already have covered the lakehouse. Lakehouse is is storing the data in the delta format, and also it can be queried by using a SQL. Okay. Data warehouse, underlying component of the data warehouse is lakehouse only. Okay. And lakehouse further stores the data in delta format, in a delta parquet files. Okay. You guys are with me, right? It's another
Yes.
change. That is another change here. Okay. As compared to the traditional data warehouses. So one aspect here is data warehouse from the Microsoft is designed for the whole data immaterial of whether they are data engineers or analysts or scientists, all of them can work in the Fabric data warehouse. So that way, no need for the different type of professionals within the organization go and fetch the data from different data sources. That is not needed. All the type of professionals within the organizations who are dealing with the data can think about data warehouse. So again, when we say lakehouse, what are we thinking? It is a collection of files, folders, tables, and shortcuts that acts like a database or a data lake. What is that? That is a lakehouse. We have already covered that, but I'm just covering again, okay, because I did mention Fabric Data Warehouse is built on the Lakehouse. Underlying a component of the Fabric Data Warehouse is, okay, we have already discussed. Okay, so like it is used by the Spark engine and SQL engine for the big data processing as a features as a transactions when you are trying to use the open source data formatted tables. Okay, so when we talk about the Lakehouse, it is a collection of files, folders, and tables. Now, when we say data warehouse, think about in the component in the data warehouse is Lakehouse only. But the change is we'll allow you to transition from a lake view to the Lakehouse to the SQL experience. Okay. So what happens is if you go to the traditional data warehouse, all the people who are working in the data warehouse are working in the SQL seamlessly. Okay. That is enabled by the Fabric Data Warehouse. Now, when you say Lakehouse, that gives the reading ability from the SQL analytics endpoint. That is what Parveen was saying. Okay. So, data warehouse is allowing you to manipulate the data. Basically, inserting, updating, deleting, all this is called as manipulating the data. I think we already discussed about this, right? Manipulating is nothing but changing, inserting, deleting, and all those things comes out as a part of the manipulating. When you say manipulating the data, we're changing the data in some way by inserting, by deleting, by updating, and all those things, right? So data warehouse enables us to manipulate the data. And also we can model the data using the tables and views. And we can query the data across the data warehouse. Okay. We can model and we can query and also you can do DML operations. What is DML operations, Malini?
Manipulation language, data manipulation, insert.
Yes. So we can also perform the DML operations. Okay. DML is data manipulation language. I mean, if I don't know whether you guys happen to see our SQL videos. If you see, we'll cover them. DDL, data definition languages, data manipulation languages, data control languages, or multiple aspects are there. Okay. So coming back within the data warehouse, we can do all these things. Okay. Now that we understood what is Fabric Data Warehouse, Parveen, how do you create the Fabric Data Warehouse?
Within the
Okay,
Lakehouse where, okay.
I think you are there. Okay. So what we can do is we already have a lakehouse. On top of that, we can build a relational layer. Okay. That way we can create a data warehouse. That is one way. Second way is, as we already have seen, we can directly create the data warehouse in Fabric by using a create hub within a workspace. Okay. Once we create a data warehouse, we can go on adding the objects to it. Okay. Two ways. If the lakehouse is there, on top of that, build a relation layer and create a data warehouse, or you can create directly the data warehouse by using a create hub or within the workspace. These are the different ways. Okay. Now we understood how to create the data warehouse. We created the Fabric Data Warehouse. What should be done next? So we can do multiple things once we create the data warehouse. They are first and foremost thing is we'll load the data into the data warehouse, isn't it? We created the data warehouse, we are loading the data into the data warehouse. Once we load the data, we query and transform the data in the data warehouse. Okay. Or while loading the data into the data warehouse, we may transform. Okay. Either way it happens. Okay. If the data is already loaded, we'll query and transform the data in the data warehouse. Any other thoughts? What else can be done?
We need to data mart, I think.
Data mart. In a way, you are right. Okay. So prepare the data for analysis and reporting. Okay. Okay. Now we have loaded the data into the data warehouse. We are able to query and transform it, and we are preparing the data for the analysis. What else can be done in the Fabric Data Warehouse? You can monitor the data warehouse, right? Okay. You are monitoring the data warehouse. What else can be done with the data warehouse? So we can also need to ensure that data warehouse is not attacked by others. What should we do with the data
Security.
warehouse? Secure a data warehouse. Okay. So we can do we should do all these things once we create the data warehouse. Okay, let us look at them one by one. Okay, what at all we have done so far? So we understood all the important aspects of the data warehouse. And then whatever the concepts which I have discussed in the data warehouse, I think I spent good amount of time. I think 5 to 6 classes I spent, I guess, on the data warehouse concepts only, right? Okay. So right from it is used for the analytical processing, then ETL process, and then data mart, different types of tables, fact and dimension tables, then schemas, right? ACD
Yes.
also we spend good amount. Those are the generic concepts in the data warehouse. Okay. So those concepts are very much valid in the Fabric data warehouse as well. Okay. So now, whatever the variations are there, I'm going to cover that. Okay. From today's class is all about the Fabric data warehouse. So we understood what is Fabric data warehouse, and we understood how do we create the Fabric data warehouse also. Right? There are two ways. Once we create, we have to do all these things: loading, query and transform, prepping up the data for the reports, monitoring the data
Monitoring.
warehouse, and securing the data warehouse.
Security.
Now we are within that we are going to look at the loading the data into the warehouse. What are the different steps involved in loading the data into the Fabric data warehouse? Anyone?
We'll be extracting the data from external sources.
Okay, that's good.
We'll be extracting the data within the extracting the data from other workspace also.
Okay, wonderful. So that is definitely one of the important aspects. If we have to consider the different important steps, one is, as Parvin said, you get the data from multiple sources. Okay, like ingest the new data into the data lake, applying preload transformations. If required, load the data into the staging tables for cleaning, transforming, and validation. Okay, that is getting the data into the one of the staging area within the data warehouse or before the data warehouse. Okay. So once we do that, the sequences will load the dimension tables. Okay. Then update the existing rows and generate the surrogate key. We already have understood the surrogate keys. Then load the fact tables looking at the surrogate keys for the related dimensions, because fact and dimension tables are related to each other. Table has many foreign keys to the dimension tables. Okay. Then post load optimization. Like once the load is done, whether you want to index the table or you have any updating of the distributed statistics so that the performance would be better. Okay. So this is the important steps in a Fabric data loading process. More or less, it will be similar in other things, but it is very much pertinent to the. Yes, we understood the important steps in the Fabric data warehouse loading. While loading the data without thinking anything, or you do think about some of the aspects, Malini?
No, I guess we need to load it as per the department, like sales or HR data,
Mhm.
bifurcate according to the departments.
Okay. So
Yes.
what are the different aspects which we have to take care? We have to take care of these aspects. Okay. First of all, we have to understand how the data ingestion and load are different. I mean, at a high level. Okay. So some of the times data ingestion and data load are used interchangeably. Okay. But still there is a difference. Okay. And we also need to see whether we need to really stage the data or not. And we also look at, are we going for a full load or incremental load? Means what are the different types of loads? We need to understand what is business key, what is surrogate key. Have you guys already understood this? Understood this, right? And also we need to, once that is done, how do we load the data into the dimension table, and how do we take care of the SCDs, and how do we take care of the loading a fact table. So when you are loading the data into the data warehouse, you don't blindly load. Okay, data warehouse is there, let us load. You have to consider all these aspects before you load the data into the data warehouse. Okay. Now, how is data ingestion and data load is different? Did you guys take a picture of this, all of you?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Awesome. Any idea how the data ingestion is different from data load. Parveen?
Sir, maybe data ingestion is extracting the data from different data sources, and data load is loading the data into the target systems. I think like that, sir.
You're almost there. Okay. Both the processes are part of the ETL
ETL.
pipeline. Okay. Ingestion is more of, Parveen rightly said, extracting and moving the raw data from various sources into the central repository. When I say load, referring to the loading of the transformed or processed data into the final storage destination. I mean, look at the words which I am using. Usually. Otherwise, when people are very particular, when they say data load, expect some transformation or processing has happened. Okay. Ingestion, then expect there is no transformation, just you are moving the data from one place to another. Okay. So while trying to load the data into the data warehouse, you have to see, hey, am I doing a ingestion? Am I doing a loading? Okay, that you have to consider. And whether you need a staging area or not. Okay. In what cases we need a staging areas? Whenever you have a different types of data coming from different sources in a different format. And definitely there is a lot of transformation involved. So in most of the cases, they do use a staging area, right? We can use the staging for auxiliary objects, like the temporary objects like tables, show procedures, and function to store and transform. Okay, so that these objects are in this the data is stored or used for transformation. So what happens is the staging area acts as a abstraction layer for simplifying and facilitating the operation. It's one layer so that you know. I mean, you do not really worry whether all the transformations are taken care. So it is a phase or a layer in between the final data warehouse and the source systems. Okay. And also, if there is any issues while loading, and if you are directly loading into the data warehouse, they'll create a lot of issues. And data warehouse is used for the analytical processing. Okay. In case if you are using a staging area, if something happens, then it minimizes the performance impact. Okay. So because we are treating staging and warehouse differently, what happens is if anything happens here, the operation of warehouse will not be halted. It will not impact the operation of warehouse. Okay. So you also consider as a part of your project whether you need to stage or you need to load the data without staging area. That also need to be considered. Okay, there are two types of data loads. One is full load. Second one is incremental load. When I say full load, when you are building the data warehouse for the first time. So let us say Myntra is trying to build the data warehouse for the first time. So assuming that Myntra is there in operation from the last 8 years. So Myntra team wants to build the data warehouse. So what they do is they will take a subset. I mean, they say, okay, do we need to consider all the 10 years data or some 8 years data or 7 years data or 6 years data? Let us say, assuming that they go for 6 years of data. All this data need to be staged, transformed, and loaded into the data warehouse. All this 6 years. This is historical load, right, Parveen? All this data need to be
Yes, sir.
loaded into the data warehouse. That is full load or historical load. Okay. Then, okay, Malini, now Myntra want to create a data warehouse. Out of 10 years of data, they have taken a 6 years of data and they created a data warehouse. Okay, let us assuming that they finished creating the data warehouse. Let us say 10 years. When I say 10 years, right? All of you please pay attention here. 10 years means let us say they are in operation from 2015 to 2025. Now, what they will do is from 2015 September, this data, I mean, 6 years would be, if you go 2019 September, they decided to create a data warehouse by using 2019 September to 2025 September data. Okay. My question, Malini, is after they create data warehouse from October 2025, whether Myntra is in operations or it is selling the products or it is not selling the products.
Oh, it is selling the products.
It is selling the product. Okay. So whatever the data which is getting created from by selling the products, whether that need to be included in the data or it should not be.
No, that is also required.
That is also required. Yes. So, because now there may be something happening, or we cannot say we build the data warehouse every 6 years, right? So, while developing the data warehouse or building the data warehouse, we consider some set of data. But whatever the data which is getting produced because of the business operations, it also need to be included in the data warehouse. That is called as an incremental load. You guys got it now? Full load or historical load is the one which is done for the initial setup, complete data refresh. Okay. So incremental load is regular updates. It can be daily, hourly, or once in 10 days, or once in a day, or it is once in 15 days. It depends on the company. Okay. While loading the data, you have to consider, hey, am I doing full load or am I doing incremental load? Parveen, you got it?
Yes, sir.
Shabna, you got it now?
Yes, sir.
Muthuminal, yourself?
Yes, sir.
Okay, awesome. Okay, we are talking about what are the different aspects we need to keep in mind before loading the data. One of that is full load and incremental load. Okay.
Sorry to interrupt you, sir.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Sir, in the previous slide, we have seen that full load, the complexity is easier, and the incremental load, it is more complex, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what I understood means full load is a large amount of data.
Mm-hmm.
The complexity here is easier, but in the incremental load, we are checking for all the rows, whether it is changing or updating. So it is taking more time than the full load. Is it so? Because here the complexity is more complex, right? For the incremental load.
Yes, yeah, you observed it, right? Okay. So
But the
one of
duration
the,
is faster,
yeah,
complexity is more. Here the
yeah,
duration is longer, complexity is easier, right?
yeah. I mean, is it making sense for you?
Yes, sir.
You have a big well, right?
Okay.
You have to put the water into the well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, within the well, you have to compartmentalize that well into some 8 to 10 compartments.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. For the first time, what you do is, you know, water is coming from which source,
Mm-hmm.
and like load the or put the water from a particular source into a particular compartment.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of data is huge.
Yes.
That is the reason it is taking a longer time.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But you have only 8 compartments.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you know which source is mapped to which compartment.
Compartments, okay.
It is easier. But now, what is happening is, you have a source, there is a continuous water flowing from somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let us say, assuming that 100 liters are flowing. I'm just taking 100 liters. Okay. Within that 100 liter, okay, now 1 liter maybe from one compartment. Okay. And also within that also, we don't know whether that half a liter maybe from something else and all those. Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
as you rightly said, the rows, you are loading the data from a transaction table into the OLAP, I mean data warehouse, right?
Data warehouse.
So you have to check what is happening, how it is happening. That is a readiness complex. Okay, but the number of records is far less than the full load.
Okay.
That is the readiness faster. But
Okay.
from a technical perspective, you have to know where you are loading, how you are loading. You have to have multiple aspects for that.
Okay.
That is where even, I mean, next topic means it will come after it. Okay. So you got it, right? I mean, yeah, one more topic related to this. Why it is this? I have already taught you that. What is the topic which is related to this, especially around the incremental load?
Slowly changing dimensions, sir.
Absolutely. Okay. Now, as we have discussed, SCDs. When you are doing incremental load, SCDs also come into picture. Okay. And one more aspect what you have to consider is the keys. Like when you are loading the dimension table, I have to create the surrogate keys. When you're loading the fact tables, you have to recreate the business keys. Okay. We have already discussed them in our previous classes. So, and also we have to look at the dividing the whole data into dimension tables and fact tables. Okay. What are they? We have already discussed that in our previous. Then important thing is you also need to consider the SCDs. Okay. We already have discussed about this. Type 0 is a fixed dimension. Type 1 is a no history. Type 2 is a row versioning. Type 3 is a new attribute. Type 4 is history table. Type 6 is a hybrid of. We have to conduct that. Hopefully you guys would have created the PPTs for this, right? Type 6 we have to discuss. Hopefully maybe whenever we are free, we'll ask you to present that. Okay. So you have to see, depending upon what kind of a load you are doing, you have to consider all these things, especially for the incremental data. Okay, that also is there. Wonderful then. So these are the different aspects we need to consider while loading the data into the data warehouse. And when we want to load, there are different methods. One is we can use the pipelines to load the data into the warehouse, or we can use the data flows to load the data into the warehouse, and also we can use the cross database querying, query the data from different databases by using a T-SQL and load the data into the data warehouse. You can just use a copy into command to load the data into the data warehouse. These are the different aspects. Okay. After loading, what will we do?
Transforming and processing.
Query and transforming the data as well. So wonderful. What we understood is what is Fabric Data Warehouse, and what are the different ways we can create the data warehouse. What are the different things what we do after creating the data warehouse, like loading the data, querying and forming the data, preparing the data for reporting, analysis and reporting, and monitoring, and also the securing. Okay. So within this, we understood the different aspects of the loading. Okay, what we have to consider. So once we load, we query and transform the data. Okay, awesome. Then we wrap up the class for today. That's all for now. Like and subscribe and turn on notifications for future videos. Thank you.